very, very much indeed for coming. You have been the most enormously engaged and patient audience. If I had been a betting man and been asked whether 95% of the audience would still be sitting there at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, I would not have bet on it. And I'm very, very grateful for the level of engagement and interest we've had from people all over the country and indeed from other parts of the world. It is, for those of you who are not part of the inner circle of black belt mystics of the broadband world, a fascinating universe into which you move. You have only, for example, to compare the different maps that everybody shows you. If you were to superimpose that maps, you'd actually discover that different people's notion of the infrastructure and the coverage is totally different. These are highly informed, highly intelligent people drawing on huge resources, and yet there is very little unanimity. And it is a very bewildering world in other ways too. I mean, if you were, and I hope many of you will stay behind from 5 to 6 to have a chat and have a drink, and maybe even join Lindsay and Guy and various others after the event. But when you get into this conversation, the entire world, as you know, is a world of why? Why can't I do that? How does that work? I mean, the whole thing is a world of crazy legislation, crazy pricing, bizarre obstacles where you find yourself relaying a second fiber optic cable when a fiber optic cable is already in the ground, and trying to discover exactly which part of the universe of regulation makes that necessary is astonishing. So we've heard a lot today, but the thing that I think I'm most grateful for is the ability to do what I believe community politics is about, which is trying to relate the local to the national. I am so thankful for the way in which the different people here have thought about Cumbria and thought about Penrith and the border in the most precise way. There's somebody, I don't want to embarrass him, but Miles Mandelson here from Great Asby, if he could wave, is somebody who perhaps you may like to see at 5 o'clock when we have a break. He has actually demonstrated in Great Asby how a lot of this can be done. This is no longer simply a theoretical fantasy. It is possible to go and see what he's done. And Lindsay, again, is there practically engaged and determined to get the coverage into Walkup. We've seen Daniel talking about what's been done in Alston and Nenthead. Now, those are real projects, or projects quite well developed within this constituency. But we've also seen people who are not from this constituency thinking about, for example, Barry, mapping the Upper Eden, Adrian engaging wonderfully in trying to work out both the coverage and also astonishing things like what would happen if you applied a Finnish model to Cumbria. Nicholas James's attempt to explain what to happen in Camblesby, I think, takes the prize of everybody. To actually be prepared to choose almost one of the most difficult villages in the entire constituency and explain how he could get in there and what the different pricing policies would be, I thought was bold. And although he insists it's not a quote, I'm very tempted to take it as a quote. But there were others too. One of our sponsors at the conference, Huawei, has very kindly come forward and offered twice to work with us, perhaps to provide the equipment for these cabinets that we're talking about. Virgin Media has been looking at lighting up Temple Sowerby. British Telecom has come in with a bid for the whole constituency. And of course, Commendium too has a very, very exciting idea about using the electric pylons. The need is enormous. I don't need to talk too much about the need, but Susan Walthall, of course, from the Small Business Administration of the United States, explained more clearly than any of us how important small businesses are, particularly in this constituency. We have more self-employed people than any other constituency in Britain. Our entire economy depends on small businesses, and small businesses more than anybody depend on decent access to the internet. For every reason that you can think of. For market reach, for their speed to the market, for lowering their transaction costs. And because we're such a sparsely populated constituency, as we've heard again from Eric, the enormous applications which are possible in health, the kind of applications Lindsay was talking about in education. We therefore have an enormous need, but we have a problem. The nature of that problem I hardly need to recapitulate today because we have heard it in so many different forms. It ranges from Lindsay's rather bald statement that her conservative estimate on wiring us up is £50 million. That may not sound to some of you in the room like a lot of money, but the total sum available in the government digital switchover budget at the moment for the entire country is approximately £200 million. So it is unlikely that 50,000 households here would be able to access £50 million. What then do we do? Well, the answer, of course, is we now bring together a plan, perhaps not Eric's 365-page plan from the United States, but something that perhaps reflects some of the elements of that plan. And it's something that we all need to work together on, and where we're very, very lucky to have offers to form an informal working group for Penrith and the Border, which we hope will have representatives from Cumbria County Council, from BIS, Department of Business in the UK, hopefully the help of Barry, who's an extremely important part of this whole thing. And what we're aiming to do, of course, is just two very simple things: drive down the cost and get higher quality access. The way in which we're going to do it can range from Pervez at the back, who pointed out that satellite is going to be part of the solution. I don't know for how many. 2%, 3%, 4% of people in the constituency probably are going to have to be connected through satellite. We are looking, Nicholas James explained, at some extraordinary options. We've seen it also from NINET, of what could be done with point-to-point microwave connections, point-to-point wireless connections. We are also very interested in getting in fibre. And the end result of all of this is that we want, years before any other rural part of the country, to get universal access by the end of 2012 at 2 meg and above, and next generation access for the majority of the people in this constituency by the end of 2012. How are we going to do this? Well, we've got some answers already coming forward, and one of the exciting things about this conference is the number of people who made offers. Essentially, Comenium, Richard Walters, has made a bid. British Telecom has made a bid. So commercial operators have come forward and said how they do it. Nicholas James has come forward. Cybermore has come forward explaining how they might do it. Lindsay has explained how she could do it in Walkup. In all these ways, we are dependent on public money to pump these projects, to pump the pump, as it were. The parish pump, in this case, being financed by Cumbria County Council. We are hoping to demonstrate, initially in Great Asby, what a community project can look like. And broadly speaking, just to simplify, I don't want to get too much into the details, but what we are imagining is a world in which perhaps 70% of the coverage in the constituency will be delivered in a relatively conventional way by a large commercial provider. But where the last 30% in this constituency, which is the most remote 30% of the last 30%, will be delivered through community projects of exactly the sort that we've explored, and with many of the kinds of technologies that we've explored. And the government, our undertaking is to come on side and try to work alongside you. With some money, we will need to get you some money for this to work. So I'm fighting very hard to try to secure not £50 million, but I would hope we could secure, let us say, £4 or £5 million out of London. That's what I'm trying to do for Penrith and the Border. But in addition to that, we need people like Miles, like Lindsay, like Daniel, to act as inspirational figures to get those communities who wouldn't otherwise be able to come online, to come online. What next? Well, what next, apart from the opportunity to talk at 5 o'clock today and exchange ideas, is I would like to propose, firstly, that we set up this working group. Secondly, we're launching a website today, which is not as advanced as we'd like. It's a basic website, but it puts all the maps, which Adrian and Barry have produced, up onto that website so that you can see the coverage in your area. We're then going to work with BT for their exchanges and cabinets to be mapped. We're going to pin down as far as we can where those gaps are and where the community projects are likely to do best. So that website is launching today, and it is accessible initially, simply for ease, through rorystewart.co.uk, but I think it's going to be called My Community Cumbria. Do we have any clarification on this in the back yet? No. The second, Louis? No clarification yet, okay? So please go on the website where Louis will tell you where to go to see this site. The next thing we're going to do is any of you who are interested in the particular specifics of your own communities, and please, please, anybody who is a Cumbrian, Find somebody in your parish who wants to get involved. We need digital champions from parishes to come forward. We are going to impose on Miles and Great Asby, and we are going to have our next meeting there so that parish representatives from all over Penrith and the border can see a parish project actually working, can come and look at a parish pump, can understand what the options are of connecting fibre or connecting a Wi-Fi hub. This is a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all your attention and time, and hopefully we will be able to report back to you in 2 to 3 months' time on a plan to get it all in place by the end of 2012. Have a very, very good weekend. Thank you again.